to student assistance. The stories and more next on KDLT News. Sioux Falls authorities tonight are on the lookout for a suspect in an early morning abduction and rape.
According to police, a 43-year-old Sioux Falls woman reports being kidnapped from the area of 41st in Minnesota at a convenience store this morning. A black male reportedly forced the woman into his car, beat her repeatedly, drove her to an unknown location and raped her. The woman told police the assault began at about 12:15 this morning and continued until she was released near 41st in Minnesota once again about 2 a.m. The woman is recovering tonight from multiple facial and head wounds, including bruises, cuts, and abrasions. The assailant is described as a 25-year-old black male, about 5'9" to 6 feet tall, weighing about 200 pounds. The suspect has short black hair, a mustache, and goatee. He was driving an older model large car, possibly a four-door Buick with possible maroon vinyl interior. Sioux Falls police are asking anyone with information about this case or possibly someone who recognizes the description to contact them.
One of South Dakota's only two men on death row is asking the state's high court to overturn his murder conviction. In PIERRE today, the state Supreme Court heard 3 hours of arguments from the attorneys for Donald Moeller. Moeller is the man sentenced to death after being convicted for the 1990 rape and murder of 9-year-old Becky O'Connell of Sioux Falls. Moeller's lawyer, Mike Butler, argued his conviction should be overturned because the death penalty is unconstitutional. Butler also told the court today Moeller was denied a fair trial because the jury heard evidence about 3 prior sexual assaults he had committed. And fingers are pointing tonight, but it's too early for federal agents to know who is responsible for a letter bomb that killed a timber industry lobbyist in California this afternoon. An employee of the California Forestry Association apparently brought in a small package from outside the office, and when another employee attempted to open it, the package exploded, blowing out windows and doors of the small brick building. Federal investigators do not believe this bombing is related to last week's deadly bombing in Oklahoma.
Meantime, the search continues tonight through the rubble of that federal building in Oklahoma tonight. More bodies have been found, perhaps as many as 8, according to fire officials, but rescuers will have to move about 300 tons of debris to free them. Tonight, Jim Hanchett tells us the White House believes the death toll will reach over 200.
Marine Corps recruiting officer Randolph Guzman used to open the store to go to work. Today, searchers found his body in the bombed-out federal building, still in uniform, sitting at his desk. Despite such ghastly discoveries, dogs sniffing for life and rescue workers removing rubble handful by handful are intent on reaching the ruined daycare center and Social Security office by day's end.
It's tough to remain optimistic that we can open up an area like where these firefighters are right here, calling in an area there, and have somebody alive. But that's one of the things that's got to keep these guys and gals going.
The latest on the suspects now. The FBI reports John Doe number 2 is still at large. Timothy McVeigh's lawyers withdrew from the case today, citing safety concerns and urging any trial be moved to Denver.
One of my primary concerns is that I had a number of friends who died as a result of the tragedy at the Murrah building.
Brothers James Nichols of Michigan and Terry Nichols of Kansas are still being held only as material witnesses, although there are news reports that Terry Nichols may be under arrest by week's end. And the FBI says it has some surveillance camera video of the bomb site, but once more.
We are urging anyone with security video cameras, particularly those located in convenience stores and restaurants that were operating in the area near the time of the blast and have preserved that tape, to contact the FBI hotline.
And the burials have also begun. At this funeral home, services for 3-year-old Kayla Titsworth, who went to the building with her dad. He was injured, but survived. Ricky Tomlin did not. He was at work on the phone when the bomb went off, killed in mid-sentence as he talked with his wife. The phone went dead, and Tina Tomlin wants the same fate for her husband's killers.
And I just pray to God that they pay. I want them to pay. I want them to hurt. I want them to suffer.
And for the first time, there is beauty outside the building. Mums brought by the Alabama PTA for the children still inside.
Searchers tonight have once again revised when they will reach the daycare center. They now believe it will be at least Tuesday before they can dig all the way through the 3 floors of pancaked concrete still in their way.
And the Sioux Falls Fire Department and the Firefighters Union Local 814 have set up a relief fund to help victims of last week's bombing in Oklahoma City. As of noon today, the firefighters started accepting donations through an account set up at Norwest Bank. They plan to continue taking cash donations through May 12th, when 100% of that money will go to a bank in Oklahoma City for distribution to the victims and their families.
From the future of Social Security to student assistance for higher education, local residents spend today searching for answers.
And floodwaters hit Davison County. We'll add up the damage next on KDLT News.
This weekend's all-time.
You're in the market for entered a letter of intent for the sale, but neither party is disclosing terms. Trail King employs 470 people in the Mitchell area, and it is the nation's largest manufacturer of specialized trailers for heavy equipment. Thompson says other than additional capital for ongoing expansion, the sale to Carlisle will not impact the Mitchell manufacturer.
Recent rain and snow has caused the James River to again swell over its banks. This time, the river's weekend crest in the Mitchell area washed away a flooding record set just 2 years ago. But as John Austin reports tonight, the floodwaters of 95 so far have caused only minimal damage to that area.
Down a couple inches today from this weekend's all-time high. The James River near Mitchell was still more than a foot higher than the record 1993 crest of just over 19 feet this noon. The river has swollen up to a mile wide and more along virtually its entire length from Aberdeen to Yankton. The record levels brought Water and Natural Resources water quality sampler Pierre Bernard closer to his work than usual late this morning.
This is the highest that I've ever seen it. It's without a doubt. It's not even close to what it was in the 93 flood.
East of Mitchell, Public Works personnel were scrambling to restore the city's only access to its sanitary landfill, which was lost late last Friday.
We did have water on at 93, but it wasn't very deep there, and it wasn't deep very long. The trucks could easily pass through it then. And right now we've brought the surface up probably at least 4 foot.
In spite of the record this year, damage along the perennially mischievous James has been mitigated by farms and small towns well used to the history of the troublesome floodplain.
Basically all we've got right now, the river's at a record level at 20.3 inches, crested sometime Saturday and Sunday. And we're still looking at basically some agricultural land being underwater, a few isolated houses that were both in Hanson and Davison County on each side of the river that were affected, but that's basically all we're looking at.
The Weather Service says even if the rains do hold off, upstream North Dakota reservoirs on the Jim are overflowing and will have to be released as the season progresses. The James River enjoys the distinction as being North America's longest unnavigable watershed and the slowest moving river on the continent. It will be a long time before it returns to its banks. Near Mitchell, John Austin, KDLT News.
President Clinton is in Iowa tonight preparing for a summit on rural America. Arriving in Des Moines this afternoon after spending the morning in Minneapolis, President Clinton will take part in the state's Farm Summit tomorrow. He will also talk to students and the Iowa State Legislature.
Concern over Social Security brought more than South Dakota senior citizens together in Sioux Falls today. This year marks the 60th anniversary of the signing of the Social Security Act into law, but as Cammie Melton reports tonight, many seniors are concerned the program does not have much of a future left.
There's got to be something wrong with the system. Can you address that? Well,
it's the question that's on nearly everyone's mind here today. How can Social Security and Medicare be reformed but not lost altogether as Washington lawmakers look toward reducing the federal deficit?
Social Security is a program people paid for all of their lives, and they deserve the benefits now.
And these South Dakota seniors agree. Do you have any concerns about losing Medicare or Social Security?
Well, yes, I am, because I have to depend on it.
There's all this talk about entitlements and how it's a heavy burden on the government. After all, Social Security is paying its own way, and all of us who are receiving it have paid into it for the years.
But with a more than $4 trillion federal deficit, there's been a lot of talk about whether Social Security cuts should be part of the remedy. So the National Committee to Preserve Social Security and Medicare Executive Vice President and Congressman Tim Johnson are encouraging today's audience of more than 100 seniors to join them in their effort to put the security back into Social Security.
They have to watch Congress very carefully. They have to be very, very well informed. They have to be very vocal.
Johnson was given a pair of boxing gloves symbolizing just how much help they'll need to end what some are calling an all-out assault on Social Security. In Sioux Falls, Cammie Melton.
Tourism in Oklahoma City, and still the body count rises. Rapid developments in the wide-reaching investigation as trace evidence trails a suspect.